Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some entitled parents. Our story today comes to us from Mental Argument 1583. Not really an entitlement rant, but I want to share a story about my father, my parents' divorce, how it affected me, and how Reddit actually helped me. Let's jump right in. I originally posted this on relationship advice, but it was removed by the mods. I'm guessing they didn't like the honesty, I don't know. I emailed them messages, but they ignored me. This is going to be long. I feel a full explanation of the situation is needed. I, 20 male, am the youngest of 5 children and the only boy. My parents were a year younger than me when they got married and were together for over 22 years. Sure, my parents would argue, but they were far apart and they were always loving towards one another. He always made sure we thanked our mother every night for cooking us dinner, helped around the house, always telling my mother how much he loves her, and would tell me that this is what a man and a husband should be. My father is very direct, and I used to think he was a complete jerk for how he was raising me, but since I was the only boy, I get it. He wanted me to know how to defend myself, how to think outside the box, how to talk to people. I remember when he thought I was gay, he sat me down and told me that it was okay to be gay, but he wants a grandchild and would help pay for a surrogate. This made me laugh. He would also try to talk to my sisters, despite the fact they truly didn't like his directness. Yet, as they got older, the more appreciated they were. My mother was a mom. She would take care of us, make sure we were okay, fed us, and took care of all the bills. My father would tell us that their dynamic only works because he makes the money and she controls it. My mother was my father's world and we were hers. When I was 17, my mother wanted to go get a job. Being a stay-at-home mom for so long, she wanted to do something. My father had no problems with it. He was happy, really. He told her that he could work less hours and spend more time at home to help her and go on date nights. About 6 months later, my mom was acting different. Everyone noticed it. She lost a lot of weight, was being rude and disrespectful towards my dad, which shocked everyone. There were times she would say something so heartless out of left field while my father was trying to be sweet, and I saw how much it hurt him. One night, I was thankful one of my sisters was home because they were arguing in Spanish and she was there translating it. My father was asking her what he did wrong. Why is she so mean to him? He told her that he was reading books on trying to understand what was happening with them, asked to go to counseling, told her from the moment he met her in junior high, he wanted to marry her, he thought they were fine. My mother said something, my sister immediately started crying, and my dad stormed out of the house. Then my sister and my mom started arguing, and I still don't know what the heck was going on. At that moment, I wished I didn't make a big stink about not wanting my dad trying to teach me Spanish. They argued for a long time before my mother slapped her and she left. It took an hour after she left to discover my mother was having an affair with her manager, simply because my father was arrested for assault in the 2nd degree for beating that man unconscious. It was a crap storm to say the least. My mother was trying to play victim, had the audacity to try and say that my dad was verbally and mentally abusive when everyone knew how he worshipped her. It caused a huge rift in the family. My 2 older sisters were hanging on to our mother's every word, but the rest of us called her out on her BS. My father was given 5 years probation and lost everything in the divorce, yet he moved on, told us that everything would be alright, and told me being a man is never easy, but he will show me that we can rebuild. My father was never afraid to cry. I once saw him cry while watching Coco, and he was not ashamed. Told me that it's good for a man to cry, but he was ashamed when he began crying over this. Ashamed to look at me, ashamed for his failed marriage. I asked my mom why she cheated, and her answer was, "It just happened." That's not a darn answer. When COVID happened, my dad was lucky that his job never fired him. He'd gotten an apartment not far away from us, and I wanted to move in with him, but he told me that I needed to be the man of the house, to protect my mother and 2 sisters that are still there, yet I wanted nothing to do with my mother. She was acting like a darn teenager, not caring about the consequences, and actually made her relationship public, which pissed off the family. But he told me that being a man is never easy. Told me that our mom was going through a midlife crisis, yet I think he didn't want me to stay with him because he didn't want me to see him that way. Broken. During the lockdown, my mom was slowly realizing the consequences of her actions. It was the little things that my dad used to do that were no longer there. The house wasn't full of laughter anymore, it was always quiet. My mom wasn't being thanked for dinner, The heavy chores were now my responsibility, and in the beginning, her boyfriend wasn't welcomed in the house, only called her when he wanted some. My older sisters were turning against her because they finally saw through her BS and how our dad was being. It angers me that I felt bad for her. It was like she was in this tailspin that she knew she was in, but had to ride it out. My dad was barely eating, just existing. He would work, go home, call us to make sure we were okay, sleep, and repeat. He lost so much weight during this. 4 months ago, my mom's boyfriend got physical with her, and I tried to put him in his place. Tried to protect my mom, but he overpowered me, got my nose broken, and a nasty black eye. My mom and sisters jumped on him, and he fought them off. I called my dad. He was at the house in less than 5 minutes, and I swear, I thought my dad was going to kill him. The way he beat him terrified me. He destroyed the first floor with this man's body. He was foaming at the mouth. It took all of us to pull him back and hold him down. Even then, we were struggling. It only stopped when the cops showed up, and it took an hour to explain the situation. They talked to my mom's boyfriend while he was on the gurney before he got into the ambulance, then released my dad. We were all confused, but the officer told him as a husband and a father, he would have done the same. It confused the heck out of me. I honestly thought my father was going to be arrested, but no, I never thought stuff like this happens. For 2 months, my father stopped at the house a lot to fix and replace what he broke. It felt normal having him back. I missed that. I think we all did. It was apparent for my mother as well. The house felt alive again. She was being flirtatious, always touching his arm and being sweet when he came over, and getting dolled up when he agreed to stay for dinner. This really pissed me off, but I could see my dad was being cordial. She excused herself and cried when he told us to thank her for cooking dinner. It's been so long since we have done that, and it took her by surprise. Last month, he began seeing someone. She's a few years younger, but I haven't seen him this happy in a long time, considering everything that has happened. My mother, however, is pissed. I think it's because she was trying to win him back, and he ignored her. A couple of days ago during family dinner, we were catching up. Me venting about college, my sisters about their boyfriends and jobs. Then, my mom suddenly began complaining about my dad's new girlfriend. Then, how she's struggling to pay the bills because she cannot get child support due to the fact that all of us are too old and the alimony isn't enough, and how my dad won't give her another chance, and how sad for a man in his mid-40s to be dating a woman who just turned 30. And I had enough. I yelled at her. I told her that everything that happened was her fault, that she's selfish, that she ruined a beautiful marriage and brought an abusive man into our lives, that she nearly ruined my father because she wanted to get her rocks off. My mom was angry and told me to respect her and not talk to her that way, and my response was, she lost my respect the moment she let another man F her, and she had no right to be upset that he moved on. This caused my mom to run out of the dining room crying, and my sisters weren't angry but told me that even though they understood my anger, it was a butthole move to talk to her that way, and I don't see it that way. My mom refuses to speak with me. My dad told me that even though I should respect my mother, he understood why I spoke to her that way, but my sisters are insisting that I should apologize to her, that I am being a bit of a butthole, but I think she needed that reality check. She ruined our family, and my sisters agree with me, but told me that I should have done it a different way. I hate her so much. For a long time, I wanted my future relationships to be like my parents, and now, every woman who flirts with me, I'm thinking about how long before she cheats on me. In my eyes, my dad was the perfect husband, buying my mom flowers just because he wanted to get her flowers, would take her dancing, serenade her, cook and clean when she was at that time of the month, and she cheated on him. This was the update that I posted that had gotten the post removed. Let me set the matter straight. Got a lot of hateful messages in DM, so let's get this straight. The man responsible for my parents' divorce was an alcoholic and a cokehead. This man caused all of my sisters to move out because of his inappropriate comments and made them feel uncomfortable. He was verbally abusive towards my mother and we argued a lot, but our mother always defended him. I was in college and we have family dinner every Sunday. Her boyfriend is not welcome there, never was. Yet when we arrived, he was drunk as a skunk and smacking our mother around, and I reacted. Leave a man who never laid a hand on you and treated you with respect for an abusive drunk that she defended. Never made any sense to me. Late Friday evening, my oldest sister called me. Apparently, she and her boyfriend are Reddit stalkers. She sounded really upset. She didn't know how much the divorce was affecting me. On Saturday, I met her and my other sisters by our mother's house. I wasn't there to apologize. I just wanted honest answers for once. We walked, sat down around our mother, and I sat there for half an hour listening to her ranting about how I spoke to her before I interrupted her. I asked her to tell us the truth about why she cheated, why she lied about our father abusing her. She sat there and at first told us that it wasn't our business. My sisters began arguing with our mother, telling her what she did may have ruined any chance for me to date anyone. She was quiet for a bit and then her waterworks began to come out. She said that she wasn't thinking about cheating with our father. She was telling the truth when she said it just happened. She said from the day she started working at Target, her manager began flirting with her. She thought nothing of it and kindly flirted back, and it escalated. Said he was so different than our father, not bold or abrasive as him. This man, who I'm going to call Butthole, was charming and different. The more my mom and Butthole talked, the more she pushed away from our dad. She said our dad was the only man she'd ever been with, and she was curious and had sex with him on her day off, but told us she was working that day. She got stuck in a whirlwind, and eventually, she felt like she was cheating on the Butthole with our dad. So she pushed our dad further away, ignored all of his sweet gestures. Our mom cried harder during this. I think it's what you guys called an ugly cry. She started talking about how much she missed our dad and all of the little things that he did, how she didn't mean to throw the affair in his face. He was just asking why, and she wanted him to stop. She then told us she only said he was abusive because her attorney told her to say that. Since he was arrested for assault, saying that he was abusive guaranteed her everything in the divorce. Butthole wanted her to sell the house immediately, but she refused. Butthole wanted to move in, but he wasn't welcome. Apparently, the abuse by the Butthole started immediately. Every day she wanted to call our father, but was ashamed. Every day she missed him telling her how much he loved her the second he woke up before asking her how she slept. She missed how he would call her just to say he loved her. Missed how he would bring her flowers just because he wanted to. He loved her unconditionally and she threw it away. 2 of my sisters cried, 2 was pissed, and I was just quiet. He never fought for us. That one caught my attention. After he was arrested, he didn't bother fighting for our marriage. He just filed for divorce and could barely look at me. He didn't want to fight to save our marriage. I opened my mouth, but my second eldest sister began screaming at her, telling her that the person who should have fought to save the marriage was her, not our father. She messed up, not him. Again, she cried, asked us to forgive her, apologizing for complaining about our father's new girlfriend. She was jealous because she knew how lucky that woman was. She knew if that woman was smart, she wouldn't let him go, and she knew our father was never the kind of man that cheats, so there was no chance for her to get him back. Again, my sisters cried with her, but I just sat there staring at her. I had to leave. My mom stopped me and apologized to all of us for turning our lives upside down, but I needed air. I must have walked for half hour, thinking about what my mom said, and somehow ended by my dad's apartment building. The second I got out of the elevator, I heard salsa music blaring. I knew it was coming from his apartment, which meant 2 things. They were either cleaning or cooking. I walked in and he was sitting by the dining room making pastels with his girlfriend and immediately asked me to help him. Yet I didn't. I turned off the radio and he looked at me with that smile, asking me what was wrong. So I asked why he didn't fight for the marriage, why he just gave up, and he gave me a soft smile. His girlfriend excused herself and he sat me down. He said he did fight, but when he got arrested, my mom went to check on her boyfriend and not him. He was in jail for over a day before she checked on him, and he knew it was over. He knew his wife loved another man, and he was not going to fight for a woman who doesn't love him anymore. A man needs to have self-respect, and your mother only wanted me back after I scared that man off. I should be your mother's first and only choice, not her backup, her only choice. So when she tried to win me back, I ignored her and moved on. I didn't want to hear that, and I yelled at him, told him how abusive that butthole was, and he left me to deal with him. He could have had me move in with him, and he shook his head, told me that they couldn't have had me move in, said he was in a dark place and didn't want me to see him that way, said that he needed me to be in that house to look after them because he knew the butthole would try something on the girls if I wasn't there, and my dad would have ended him. I shoved him when he tried to hug me, left the apartment, and went straight to my dorm. Yesterday, my dad was at my dorm bright and early, told me to get dressed, and he took me to the boxing gym. He gave me gloves and told me to get in the ring. I looked at him as he climbed inside, told me he knows I'm angry and he wants me to give him my anger. Told me that I have 4 rounds to do it. I got in and we began sparring. My dad didn't throw one punch, he just blocked and took each hit. There was a few times he grabbed me and said that it was okay, just let it out, and I did. I swung and eventually I just started crying. He hugged me and told me that it was okay to cry, okay to let it out. Told me that this is part of being a man. I couldn't breathe and he just kept telling me to let it out, that he loved me. I don't know how long we were in that ring. When it was over, I felt relieved, like a giant burden was lifted off my chest. My dad was smiling at me, gave me a hug and a kiss, and told me that no relationship is perfect. You always have to work on it, always have to fine-tune, always stay vigilant. He said that someday I will meet someone that I want to be better for, that I want to build a life with, and when I do, remember to be myself, to be faithful, and stay true, and if it fails, it will hurt. It will kill me from the inside, but I will need to remind myself that it wasn't my fault, because I gave it my all. That was the lesson he learned from this divorce, and a lesson he gladly passed on to me. He told me if I'm feeling this anger again to call him and we'll meet at the ring. He then told me that it's okay to be mad at my mother, but she has been punishing herself long enough and I need to let her know that I won't abandon her. I'm blessed to have him in my life, yet I still wished my parents were still together because I know what my mom meant. No woman would want to let him go, and that's the kind of man I want to be. I want to be a man like my dad. You know, it's now 7:00 p.m. here, but I could have sworn it was like 3 hours ago that we finished cutting up those onions downstairs. So why are they still having this effect on me? OP, your dad seems like a really good person and just a role model for what a father should be. There was a comment down below on this one that said, "This is how I'd apologize. I'm so sorry your life choices ruined our family, and your lack of respect for us and our family led you to make such terrible life choices. I'm sorry you brought this all upon yourself, and I'm so very sorry Dad's happier now than he's ever been. I'm sorry that your actions have ruined the way I look at you, and I'm sorry I can't forgive you right now." Check out OP, linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.